so get this, all right. Moon was one of the most vigilantly anti-communist people in the sort of post-World War II era. He formed a number of violent gangs, essentially, that recruited, at least to hear the mainstream media tell it nowadays, that recruited neo-Nazis from across the world as a sort of fascist, like calling card, people from like Nazis who had fled from South America. He basically formed a small army in South America after assembling them, financing them. And here's a great article I'll pull up here. Let's see. He was what you would call Holocaust denier. I'm going to actually, first I'll pull up the Wikipedia. Remember, this is the head fundraiser of the GOP. Can you put this guy on the screen? This is the Wikipedia for Moon's Unification Church and Judaism. So basically, much of the Christian religious doctrine had become totally cucked after the Vatican II Council in 1965, which is when a lot of the core teachings of Christianity were permanently reinterpreted to make Jewish people not responsible for the killing of Christ, to make it so that Jewish people should not be sought after for conversion. It was basically a Talmudic reinterpretation of the Bible to get like the hundreds of millions of Catholics to see to be scrubbed of any kind of anti-Semitic sentiment. So Reverend Moon had none of that. Okay, he did not give a fuck. So basically, he got in a knockdown, drag-out fight with the American Jewish Committee in the 1970s. In 1975, the AJC released a report accusing the Unification Church of having over 125 instances of quote pejorative language, stereotyped imagery, and accusations of collective sin and guilt about Jews. Moon then countered and wrote a reply. They called on Moon's. They said that he was being anti-Semitic and that it was anti-Christian of him to even say these things about the Jews, and called upon him to make a comprehensive and systematic removal of all anti-Semitic references from their Bible. Okay, this is basically what they did to Catholics successfully in 1965. So here is how this Korean ZFG, like master of the universe, replied. He issued a rebuttal to the report, stating that that the report itself had a hateful tone.
Essentially, this guy wanted Christianity with a little plus. Let's call it Christianity plus.
Sure, Christianity plus. So what ended up happening was Moon was forced out of power, basically, by the way, he started a number of anti-communist leagues that he referred to as Latin American death squads. It's just really weird looking at this now when you see some of the sort of extremist memery that emerged. Anyway, what happened was Moon was thrown in jail in 1984 for issues related to sort of corruption and tax issues, and that's when Rupert Murdoch basically stepped on the scene and became the chief financier of the right-wing mass media empire. But what ended up happening when Reverend Moon came back on the scene, because he was still financing things, is he did a total about-face on America. And he said that America, I'm going to try to pull up some direct quotes here, but he basically pulled like a George Lincoln Rockwell, General Patton, Charles Lindbergh. Like later in life, he came to recant his like obsessively pro-America stance, because he was a Korean guy who said that America was the greatest country on earth, that all he wanted to do was promote America. And then in the 90s, when he saw the direction that neocons were taking the Republican Party in, he said that America is lost. It has become Satan itself because Americans and the neoconservatives are obsessive. They're obsessed with individuality, and this extreme individuality will get them killed in the long run. It's very interesting to see that in light of some of the collectivist inflections that have come back into the sort of nationalist meta. And then he said, basically, he said that women have to learn to negate themselves and become more sexually traditional. And then he said that because of this overt obsession with individuality, that America had become so satanic that hamburgers should be considered evil because they come from America. But this is basically a guy who called communism a godless ideology. He did not mince words. And when he was, dethroned from being the chief financier of the GOP, Rupert Murdoch took the GOP's direction in a totally sort of right-wing Zionist direction. Whereas Moon was chaotic and unstable, there was heterogeneity of beliefs in the right wing at that point.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Essentially, this guy pulled the right wing of America against converging toward the state that it has now converged to, which is a form of Zionist right wing, but he was pulling it in another direction.
Right. But, what's interesting is he wasn't a racialist, so to speak. He was an America First guy who, while a lot of what he said certainly sort of verged on some of those tones, he was pretty much just obsessively anti-communist and traditionalist. What a lot of people might call sort of honorary with this sort of I've been streaming lately with a friend of mine, Kai Chang, who's a Chinese guy who feels the same way that I do as a Jewish person. And, I've seen this sort of archetype a number of times where you have, people who are allies. This is one of the things about sort of a big tent ideology is, at least you get the benefit of the financial support, of the resources. And by and large, for all of his flaws, of which Moon had many, he was not dictatorial about right-wing media direction. That is, he didn't engage in the self-censorship, deplatforming, only one philosophy allowed, philosophy that characterized the Murdoch era. He did his own thing, but other publications were allowed to flourish.